Silence was your first lesson, that hollow echo when love should have spoken loudest, yet all you heard were criticisms disguised as advice, manipulation dressed as concern. God witnessed every swallowed tear, every time you knelt and asked, "What's wrong with me?" But the truth is, nothing was wrong with you. The problem always lay in the shattered mirror your narcissistic mother or father forced you to carry, distorting your reflection until you forgot who you were. And today, even as an adult, you still feel the weight of that invisible inheritance, the gnawing doubt, the guilt that isn't yours, their voice whispering in your mind as if it were your own conscience. But this is the moment you discover why it still hurts, and how God, in His infinite justice, was already writing your deliverance. They made you believe you were too small to be loved, that every mistake proved your failure, that your worth depended on what you could give them. But what happens when the wounded child discovers that, in the hands of the divine, every wound becomes a testimony? You were not forgotten. You were not abandoned. Every pain they inflicted is recorded, not to keep you chained, but to prove you survived, and that now, at last, it's time to break free. I want you to imagine, for a moment, what God would say if He sat beside you right now. He wouldn't point out your flaws or whisper that you'll never be enough. He'd show you every time you got back up, even when no one saw. Every time you chose to love, even when no one taught you how. And that's why this video exists. To reveal the 3 divine truths your narcissistic parent never wanted you to know. The first will shatter your mind. The last will restore your soul. Have you ever caught yourself repeating the very patterns of the person you swore you'd never become? That sudden coldness when someone needs you, the cutting tone that slips out in frustration, followed by the shock of recognizing their voice in your own mouth. God isn't fooled. He knows you didn't choose this. Narcissism is a chain passed through generations, a silent curse feeding on stolen innocence. But here's the secret that changes everything. You're not repeating the past, you're reacting to it. Every time you catch yourself acting like them, it's not proof you've inherited their poison. It's proof your soul is still fighting to break free. And that fight, it's sacred. God wouldn't allow this battle if He didn't know you could win it. But first, you must understand how their venom still flows in your veins. Because this isn't just about painful memories, it's about the deep programming that told your heart, love is dangerous, trust is foolish, you're only valuable when you're perfect. And the cruelest lie? They made you believe this was love. But real love doesn't crush, humiliate, or condition. That's why healing begins here, in the radical act of calling things by their true names. What they did wasn't love, it was control. And control in any form is the opposite of God's will. Picture a child sitting alone in the dark, convinced the entire world knows they don't deserve light. That child was you. While your narcissistic mother or father smiled for others, praised for their generosity or strength, you carried a secret no one else saw, the agony of never being enough, but God saw. He witnessed every glance they stole away when you needed comfort, every time they twisted your achievements to make you feel small. And here's the truth that will shatter your chains. God never agreed with them. The narcissist loves to play God in others' lives, dictating rules, manipulating realities, punishing anyone who dares question their authority. But there's an abyss between the false God they pretended to be and the true God, who never demanded you erase yourself to be loved. The Heavenly Father doesn't need your suffering to feel powerful. He doesn't collect your tears like trophies. No, He counts them one by one and promises not one was wasted. While your earthly parents trained you to doubt your worth, God was already writing a plan where every wound would be redeemed. And the first step? Realizing you're not stuck in the past, You're being prepared for a mission only your scars could equip you to fulfill. There's a question that haunts children of narcissists like a ghost. Why me? Why were you born into that home? Why did God allow such broken people to have so much power over your life? The answer lies in one of spirituality's most mysterious laws. Even poison can become medicine when placed in the right hands. Your narcissistic parent may have believed they were shaping you into their image, but God was working behind the scenes, molding you into His, someone who sees pain where others ignore it, who spots manipulation where most are deceived. You weren't chosen to suffer, you were chosen to survive. And in that survival, to reveal a truth that breaks chains. The narcissist tries to dim your light because it exposes their deepest fear, that they're small, fragile, human. But God never asked you to bear the weight of healing their damage. He only asks you to stop carrying the lies they strap to your back, because there's a difference between honoring your parents and idolizing them. To honor is to say, despite it all, I lived. To idolize is to keep believing they had the right to define you. And you already know which side you're on. There's a wound that never fully heals, the kind carved by parental rejection. You could conquer the world, build a brilliant career, raise a family of your own, yet that hollow echo remains, the child who never received the unconditional love they deserved. God knows this void intimately, because He planted the longing for perfect love in your heart Himself. Your narcissistic parents didn't just fail to love you well, they distorted your very understanding of love. They made you believe love comes with conditions, that affection must be earned, that your worth shifts with their moods. But divine love doesn't operate that way. It's as constant as sunrise, as boundless as air, and when this truth clicks, revolution. That void was never about their lack. It was God's invitation to a love so deep, no human could ever satisfy it. For years, you may have swallowed that anger, believing negative emotions would make you just like them. But God doesn't condemn your rage. He understands it better than anyone. After all, He witnessed every injustice, every humiliation, every violation of your boundaries. That fire in your veins? It's proof your soul still recognizes when something is wrong, when you're being treated as less than sacred. The issue was never your anger, it's how they weaponized theirs. Where they used fury to control and punish, yours can become a tool of holy justice, not to destroy, but to defend. Not to dominate, but to set boundaries that honor the divine within you. God isn't asking you to drown that anger in false spirituality. He's waiting to help you forge it into fuel for your liberation. It was planted in your heart like a poisoned seed. Every time you dared to be happy, independent, or successful, they found ways, subtle or cruel, to make you feel wrong for thriving. They built a system where your autonomy threatened them, where your individuality insulted them. But here's the truth that unravels their lies. That guilt was never about you. It was about their terror of losing control, their inability to celebrate your light. God never intended you to bear this weight. In fact, He's ready to help you untangle their toxic web and replace it with something radical, the unshakable knowledge that you owe them nothing. When you trace that guilt back to its source, when you see it as the narcissist's counterfeit gift, something miraculous happens. You reclaim the right to exist without apologizing for taking up space. You learn to swallow needs, choke back tears, disappear on command. But that silence wasn't weakness, it was your child, soul's brilliant survival strategy, a way to protect the sacred core they could never touch. Now, God is calling you into a new season, where your voice shakes the walls they built. This isn't about vengeance. It's about the divine right to speak your truth, to say no, to occupy space without shrinking. They tried to silence you because your authenticity exposed their emptiness. But God embedded a voice within you that the world needs to hear. Every time you use it, You're not just healing, you're ending a generational curse. Maybe they used religion to control you. Maybe they rejected faith because they refused any authority but their own. Either way, your relationship with the divine was hijacked. Here's the good news. God is nothing like them. Not the manipulative puppet master they pretended to be. Not the distant judge they feared. The real God, he invites your hard questions, embraces your righteous anger, cherishes the parts of you they called too much. Your spiritual journey doesn't have to mirror their distortions. This is sacred ground where you discover a love that doesn't bargain, doesn't punish, doesn't play games. A love that sets you free. Success can bring mixed feelings for those raised by narcissists. Part of you longs to shine, while another part fears the consequences of standing out. Your parents may have resented your achievements or, on the other hand, used them to promote themselves. But your worth isn't measured by what you accomplish, and God doesn't love you more or less based on your successes or failures. You were conditioned to believe you needed to perform to be loved, but the truth is radically different. You deserve love simply for existing. When you begin to internalize this truth, something transformative happens. You can pursue your dreams not out of fear of not being enough, but from the pure joy of expressing the gifts God placed within you. Your talents aren't weapons for competition, they're gifts to be shared. Healing isn't a straight line you must follow perfectly. It's a sacred spiral, where each loop may seem like repetition, but is actually a new level of understanding. Some days you wake up feeling the weight of old wounds as if they were fresh, and this isn't failure. It's your body and soul reprocessing pain with resources you didn't have as a child. God isn't up there timing your progress with disapproval. He's by your side through every fluctuation, every tear, every moment of doubt. Your narcissistic parents may have planted in you the idea that feelings are dangerous or shameful, but the truth is that your capacity to feel deeply, even pain, is a divine gift. When you stop fighting the highs and lows of the process and simply embrace them as part of the journey, something magical happens. You realize you aren't broken and in need of fixing, but rather in transformation, like a seed that must pass through dark soil before it blooms. Every relapse into old patterns isn't a sign that you aren't evolving, but an opportunity to break free at an even deeper level. Remember, God specializes in resurrections, and that includes bringing new life to the parts of you your narcissistic parents tried to kill. We've arrived at the heart of the matter. You weren't created to carry the scars your narcissistic parents gave you forever. Every wound, every tear, every moment of doubt was recorded in heaven, not as a mark of shame, but as a seed of greater purpose. God doesn't waste a single one of your experiences. He's preparing you to be a light for others still trapped in the darkness you know so well. That wounded child inside you, they don't need to hide anymore. They are proof of your resilience, the source of your compassion, the reason your voice matters. When you look in the mirror today, don't just see the reflection your parents distorted. See the miracle who survived, the warrior who learned to love despite everything. The masterpiece God is refining every single day. This is your moment to break the chains once and for all, not through hatred or revenge, but through the radical self-love your parents could never give you. And if this content touched your heart, if it made you feel seen and understood like never before, then don't let this connection end here. Click like right now, not just to support this channel, but as a symbolic act of self-affirmation, a yes to your own healing journey. And subscribe so you don't miss future videos, because this is just the beginning of your liberation. With each new video, you'll discover more tools to transform your pain into power, your scars into wisdom. The journey continues, and you're not alone in it. God is with us every step of the way.